Somatic intelligence is really the big deal right now with everything that I'm doing and the impact out there, which is really exciting. For people that don't know what somatic intelligence is, it's basically emotional intelligence taught through the body, through body work, through body language that shifts how we live life, the emotional blocks that we have, reclaims parts that are gone, and really impacting our performance so that we can reach our peak performance.
Life is all about relationships. Lovers, family, body, or money. How satisfied you are can be completely explained by how you relate to things around you. This is Sophie Jaffe, and together with my husband, Dr. Adi Jaffe, we are here to explore and teach you how to maximize your relationships and achieve a happier life. Let's get ignited.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Ignited Relationship Podcast. My name is Adi Jaffe.
And I'm Sophie Jaffe.
And here we're talking about the body today.
Yes.
But not like medicine, like here's a body part and we're going to dive into that. We're going to talk about embodying your psyche, embodying the emotional experiences that you've had and how to develop something that our guest, Chen, calls somatic intelligence.
Yeah, and I think when we think of the body and embodiment, we think of just the physical body. And it's so beyond that. And I know we talk about that, conceptualize that, but it's hard to really fully understand. This conversation with Chen helps us to really understand what that means to be fully embodied. And that means embodied in your spirit, your soul, whatever words you want to use to describe it, all aspects of who you are to come into that.
Absolutely. And I have a review of the week that I wanted to share with everybody. And this one comes from Autumn Nenlo. And it says, thankful every day for ... I assume it's this podcast or something like that. After it, iTunes cuts it out. And it says, I've been listening to Dr. Adi and Sophie's podcast religiously for the past several months. Listening to the podcast has been a really important part of my self-care routine. I'm so thankful to have found you guys online. Everything you two talk about hits home for me, and I learned so much. If I was to request anything for Dr. Adi and Sophie to do an episode on, it would be depression and anxiety and young adults struggling with mental health and pressure to figure out your purpose in life after depression. Noted and taken notes on. Thank you so much for that, Autumn. Thank you both so much for the podcast. Thank you, Autumn, for the review and the rating. I just want to remind you all, we listen to these and we pay attention to them and we read them. And, you know, we love hearing exactly that kind of input from you guys. What do you love? What are you looking for more of?
Exactly. It helps us be better and show up the way you need us to.
100%. And if you like this podcast, then go leave us a little review and a rating right now. And maybe you'll end up on the air just like Autumn did.
I want to read a quote about embodiment that I just found and I love.
Let's do it.
It says, may we come into our bodies and learn what it is to feel at home in our own skin.
I think not even just fat shaming, but body shaming is such a thing that I don't know how many people listening right now feel more often uncomfortable in their own body, in their own skin, than the notion that they could even feel comfortable in it. I wonder how many people who are listening right now are so much more familiar with being uncomfortable in their own body than even the idea that they will one day be comfortable in it.
Mic drop. It's so true.
It makes noise when I drop it, so I won't do it. But.
I mean, truly, it's heartbreaking the amount of friends, clients, acquaintances, conversations I've gotten into with people, mostly women, because that's usually who I get into these deeper conversations with, but everyone. I mean, even you and I
struggle with it.
Yeah, just this waste of time and energy not loving the skin that you're in. It's a waste. It's wasted minutes of your life where you're worried, fearful, feeling unworthy, feeling not good enough. It's like, it's just the skin you're in. So if this is your home, make it the best home you can possibly make it, given that this is your one lifetime as far as we know.
Sure. The thing is, there's so much messaging that goes completely against what you just said, which is, every magazine you pick up is about the latest workout to get ripped abs.
That's why I stopped reading them.
You can pretty much guarantee if you go to a magazine stand right now and you just look at the men's health and women's health magazines, guarantee a third to half of them have a feature on how to get more ripped abs. And if they don't have that one, they have it on how to get more toned arms or bigger arms.
Honestly, if you pay money to subscribe to magazines, stop, because they all have the same messaging. Just have one women's health at home, one self magazine.
From like 3 months ago.
Yeah, no, years. It's always the same. It's just like the trends come and go, and then they come back, and then 3 months later it's the same, and then these are in and these are out. Here's your ab
have
workout.
Better orgasms.
It's always the same stuff over and over again, and you're wasting your money. You're not going to learn anything new. You can dog ear that page. You're never coming back to it to do that workout. Just let it go. Just know that is, how society makes money right now, and through ads in that way, it's an old kind of stagnant way of getting you to feel guilty and uneasy in your skin so that you buy the shit. It's really fucked up that's the reality, but that is the way it's worked for a long time. Just like look at reality TV. It's drama. It's low vibration. It's okay if you like watching that. But it's feeding into a part of you that like gets addicted to that low vibration. And it doesn't have to be that way forever. And ideally one day it's not like that. And, we've talked about this because I've almost been on a couple of reality TV shows, and even
you've been on one.
I was on one called Yoga Girls, and I think you can still find it.
Guys.
It's called Yoga Girls. It was a reality TV show. It only had one season. And probably for this reason, it didn't have great distribution. It was on Z Living. And honestly, it had a pretty good messaging about yoga, but there was some drama. There had to be a little bit of drama, as there is in the world.
Yeah, but the drama was like people weren't invited to the right party and they got mad about it.
Or like bad relationships, unhealthy relationships. And yeah, I mean, it's just there at every level. We all have to outgrow the normal programming and not subscribe to it. I refuse to buy those magazines anymore because it's the same shit over and over again. And it doesn't make me feel good. I feel like I'm not working hard enough. Oh, I haven't been doing those types of workouts. Like whatever, like this feeling of like what you should be doing, what you should be eating. It's the same thing that goes into that feeling you get when you're following the wrong people on Instagram or the wrong Pinterest page. Like, you shouldn't feel bad or guilty for just showing up exactly as you are. And I truly feel like you get to pick and choose the messaging that you receive in the world, whether it be through media, the news, magazines. Like, it is a choice. What you bring into your bodies and into your minds, make the choice so that you don't feel guilty or bad or shameful.
I think it's okay to have things that inspire you to go
as long
harder or do whatever, but it has to provide a positive impression for you. And by the way, that's different for different people.
Exactly.
Some of you, there are a lot of different ways of feeling comfortable in your skin, right? Like we talked about liking the way that you look, liking your weight and how your body feels, like literally in terms of like the mass, feeling sensual or feeling connected to that element of who you are. What are some other things that you've noticed either in people talking to you or in your own life that people start kind of creating discomfort around or locking into discomfort around their physicality?
As a personal like journey, you're saying, if you're each individual. Yeah. I mean, I think it varies. I like from my own personal, like yesterday I was doing a documentary on something that had to do with breasts, and there were 4 of us, and we were all discussing how breasts have impacted our life, big or small. One girl got her breasts reduced because she was just she got on birth control when she was 18, and just they blew up to an E from like a big A, and how it just completely transformed her life. She felt really self-conscious. Some of us had like smaller breasts and felt like really uncomfortable about that because we fell into the comparison trap. And so we all had different journeys. One girl, her mom passed away at 22. So she got a boob job because she lost 20 pounds, and a lot of it left from her boobs. So she got a boob job to try and like feel good on the outside, to not deal with her feelings on the inside, but she was dying inside. So recently she got them taken out because she was getting all of these crazy responses, disease, and just all this stuff was showing up in the body because the plastic was in her body, and it just was showing up as something that it couldn't recognize. And so she got all these skin conditions. She recently just got them removed. So she wanted to have a conversation openly about breasts and our different relationships with them. And I think there are so many examples of that. Like, you know, growing up, felt like my butt was too big or my lips were too big. And like that affected how I spoke on the playground.
That's so funny. We talked about that before, and like how things shifted, which speaks to...
Oh yeah, we have a body image episode. If you guys want to go back and listen, it's really, really awesome. I love that episode.
And in that episode, you mentioned how now it's like having big lips is the one that everybody wants. Like people are literally getting injections into their lips.
And a big butt. Like all of a sudden, like I'm still in shock that like you guys want a bigger butt. Like what? I always wanted to shrink my butt, you know?
And we talked about your teeth, like you had a gap in your teeth.
Yeah.
And so those are some specific things. We talked about like I have graying hair coming in now. And it's really funny because you really love it.
Yeah.
And so that helps reduce my...
fuck men.
My ageism.
Well, men look so much better as they age. Women are like, shit, get rid of the wrinkles, get rid of the gray hairs.
But again, that's the bullshit.
Sure. And it's society.
That's the bullshit we tell ourselves.
It's society, yeah.
Right? So I think that's why...
But men really do age better.
But
it's a fact.
But honestly...
But it's a fact.
The fake knowledge is a fact.
No, but there's so many things. I think that's just me personally is like... you know, when I was pregnant, I developed all of these different spots on my face from hyperpigmentation and the different hormonal levels. And that made me self-conscious. And some friends were like, it's cute. It's like a freckle. And to me, I was like, no, I look like, I don't even know, a leopard. Like it like looks weird to me. I don't like it. It's foreign. There's so many different ways. Oh, it's cute. It's freckles.
Right.
You know, just like lips. Oh, they're beautiful. Like, I go get lip injections because I want your size lips. Well, I feel self-conscious because they're bigger. And, you know, like this whole like game we play with this body we've been given or the spirit we've been given, like just embrace it, find a way to embody and be at peace with exactly the way you were born, because there's a reason that you were born and brought into this world. Same thing I would tell my kids. Your body is perfect exactly the way it is. Leo has a stronger build. He's more muscular and strong and husky. Kai is a string bean and adorable and beautiful. They're both perfect exactly as they are. And truly, I would want it no other way. They are so beautiful, and we cry thinking about their little bodies and their faces. But they look very different in lots of ways.
And they're going to get self-conscious about their own bodies no matter how we feel about them, right? And so what I think is important here in the conversation, the reason all those examples to me are so relevant for people is because we all go through our own journey with this. And, you know, we talked a little bit before recording this. In relationship, a lot of times the way we feel about ourselves, especially in our body, translates into how comfortable we feel connecting to our partner. And so if you're in your head and you wake up in the morning, and you guys know this, right? We all know that we can sometimes wake up in the morning and feel like we look amazing. And then we wake up the next day and we're like, fuck, I look like shit. Not that much could have possibly changed in the way you look over 24 hours. That's a psychological representation of your physicality. But then take that one step farther. And when you feel really hot and amazing, you might rub up on your partner, you might give them a kiss, you might try to initiate sex. When you don't, you're going to be pissed, you're going to be anxious, you're going to distance yourself.
It's just so important to find practices that work for you and your body to feel embodied. Like I was saying, I just got a massage last night and I felt embodied. I felt, here I am, I'm in my physical body now, I'm in my sensuality. It had nothing to do with the person that was, it's not like I had a hot masseuse and he like turned me on. It wasn't at all. He was the opposite. But it was just the physical touch, like just the physical touch, and knowing how to touch me and where to touch me reminded me. He didn't have to touch my breast. He touched my knee and it turned me on, because it was like and turning on, not that I wanted to have sex with him, turned me on as in like, oh, there's my sexual being. There's my sensual being. There's my physical being. There's my spirit. I'm awake and alive now.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about sensuality coming from senses, right? Awakening of the senses. So if you are in your physical senses, in touch and liking your body, you will be more likely to connect physically, even with your partner. And we wanted to talk about, for the relationship tip of the week.
I wanted to just say one more thing before we go to the relationship tip. I think there's one step further, which is the embodiment, because I love the body I'm in right now. I'm in a place where, before I got to the massage, I loved my body. I feel great. I feel proud of the skin I'm in. I'm in a very confident place in this moment that will easily shift and change because it always does. It's a journey. But in this moment, I feel really good. But I was still out of connection and alignment with my body and with my sensuality. And because I've just been going through a lot, and we have 3 kids and businesses, there's so much going on. So to be able to tap into that part to myself allowed me to feel embodied and connect to all my senses and connect to all parts of my body.
Got it.
There's a I'm already confident in this place. So it's not just about confidence. I am confident, but I haven't been touched in that way in a long time. And I haven't remembered what it feels like to feel turned on in that way, in different ways, by someone touching my toes. Like, it's crazy that just that connects you to being tuned in. And you have to know that, whether it be dance, like dancing freely, turning on your favorite song and just moving, which is something that Chen talks about, is dance is a really great way to embody.
Yeah.
And for sure, when we have 3 or 4 songs in a row that really tune me in, that's why I make those playlists on Spotify. Those are the songs that allow me to feel embodied. Those are the songs that I can get up and move and close my eyes and remember who I really am. And it's so important when you feel a little off. You've used music for your entire adult life to tune into the best versions of who you are. And that can be different songs for different people, just as these practices can be different practices for different people. What might help you feel embodied might be different than me, but the point is knowing yourself and connecting to that.
Yeah. That's great. I love that.
Relationship tip.
Yeah, and for the relationship tip, a lot of times it's hard, and when you feel anxious and relatively uncomfortable, you get so much in your head about, well, I need to get to a place where I'm comfortable with my body so that I can connect physically with my partner. And I think what we realize over time is sometimes you have to flip the script on that and to say, oh, I know that when my partner and I connect sexually or connect physically, it makes me feel better. Right now I'm feeling off. I don't have to wait until I feel okay about my body before connecting with them sexually, because the sexual experience, the physical experience itself will bring some of that into it. And so
so if you're feeling off in your body sometimes, or you're feeling disconnected from your partner, that can actually be the practice that attunes you, that brings you into connection. So, okay, I'm feeling a little insecure. I'm feeling a little off balance. I don't know where my sensual body is. I don't know where my sexual body is. Okay, why don't we just kiss and connect in that way? And maybe it'll lead to something else. And if it does, it will help that release, the anxiety release, the stress release. And then all of a sudden you feel more confident because you became embodied. Like, it's almost like faking it till you make it, like putting a smile on and then all of a sudden, I feel better. Or doing laughing therapy. Like, you laugh, and then all of a sudden, you actually feel better because things are released. Hormonally, things are released when you make love or when you are touching or kissing. Oxytocin is released when you're hugging and bonding in that way physically.
I don't love the fake it till you make it piece, because it feels like you have to fake it. I'm not asking you to fake it. I'm saying
I actually do have to fake it sometimes. Like, I have to literally, I'm not in the mood to have sex. I feel shitty. I feel ugly. I feel tired. I feel yucky, out of alignment. And I have to convince myself. I'm like, if I make the point and go outside of my comfort zone right now, I just want to go to sleep. I want to shut the world out and wake up tomorrow and feel better. But sometimes the medicine is in moving past that discomfort and convincing myself I have to fake it till I make it. So then I can lean over and just start touching you or kissing you or tell you I want to.
To me, that's...
It's not really fake it.
It's not faking it. You're applying a tool that you know works. Yeah. That's not faking it.
But I'm not really...
Faking it would be this, and this is where I think it gets dangerous for people. I don't want you engaging in sex with your partner, sitting there the whole time going, well, this feels like shit, but I will just smile and grin and bear
Within
it.
3 minutes, it feels, you can shift. Just like after smiling, all of a sudden you feel better. That's what I meant, but whatever, we're getting into the...
Well, no, I think this is important for people
semantics.
Because, well, a little bit, but I think when you are feeling uncomfortable in your body or around your life, there's a tendency to escape.
Yeah.
What I'm saying here is it's not fake it. It's learn that escaping is not going to actually provide you what
Connection
you want.
will.
Move to connection.
Yeah.
So don't fake it.
Yeah.
Just say, you can even say to your partner, hey, I'm feeling really anxious or whatever. Can we hug and kiss?
Sure.
I don't really know where this will go.
So
but
it's a tool. It's a tool then to apply when you're feeling off. So if you're feeling off, then you apply the tool of, oh, let's have connection, even though I'm not feeling very connected right now. I'm going to move past discomfort and move into this place of healing and connection and growth so that we both feel better on the other side.
Yeah. And if you have the right kind of relationship and communication with your partner, it is totally okay to say halfway through, this has been nice and it's calmed me down a little bit to connect in this way. I don't really want to have sex. I just wanted to connect physically.
Yeah.
Don't fake it. Like, don't get to a point where you start lying to your partner about the fact that every night you like having sex with them, even though you don't. And then you're trapped 16 months later going, oh, fuck, now there's like this whole new habit. Mm-hmm. If the tool is about reconnecting, use the tool to reconnect and then have a genuine conversation. If it gets you hot and you want to move into sex, awesome. If not, to be able to say, you know what? Thank you. We kissed. That allowed me to kind of reconnect a little bit. I'm really tired.
Oh, absolutely. It doesn't always have to lead to sex. It's about what feels right to you in that moment. And sometimes connection can literally be just hold me, please. I just need to be held. And then that feeling of being held can feel really healing and bring you into the embodiment of your sensuality.
Absolutely. So let's talk more about embodiment and reclaiming your power with Chen Lizra here in a moment. We'll be back on the other side. Somatic intelligence coming up.
Talk soon. This episode of the Ignited podcast is brought to you by Philosophy Superfoods. The Philosophy offers cleanses and other nutritional products that are unlike any of the other supplements and detoxification programs on the market. Why? Because they actually nourish the body with whole, live, nutrient-rich foods instead of depriving you and leaving you hungry. Have you ever tried a cleanse only to find out that you can't make it through a whole day because you're starving? Ever try a superfood shake that made you nauseous because it was so disgusting you'd rather not eat? The Philosophy fix all that with a simple set of offerings that load up your body with nutrients while actually tasting good. Makes sense, right? Each of the Philosophy superfood and protein blends is vegan, raw, gluten-free, and has absolutely no filler ingredients. With over 15,000 satisfied customers, including some of the world's biggest celebrities like George Clooney, Gerard Butler, Lea Michele, and over 10 years of experience, this is the best stuff you can get. To buy some or find out more info, go to our website, thephilosophy.com.
All right, everybody, welcome to the conversation piece of today's Ignited episode. It is always fun for me when we have an Israeli guest. First of all, because I get to pronounce names the way they're supposed to be pronounced. And I don't know how often that happens to you, Chen, when you're doing podcasts nowadays, but we have Chen Lizra with us today. And not only is she a fellow Israeli, but she's a fellow TED speaker, although her talk has far surpassed what my talk has done in terms of the impact that it's had on the world. And it's beautiful. Chen's work centers around body work, really allowing people to get into their experience and the concept of somatic intelligence. And Chen, why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners and tell them who you are and what you're all about?
So first of all, I could just smile from ear to ear hearing my name pronounced right. Oh my God. It doesn't happen often. And usually people practice a lot before we go on an interview. And sorry, I got a bit of a cold. Somatic intelligence is really the big deal right now with everything that I'm doing and the impact out there, which is really exciting. For people that don't know what somatic intelligence is, it's basically emotional intelligence taught through the body, through body work, through body language that shifts how we live life, the emotional blocks that we have, reclaims parts that are gone, and really impacting our performance so that we can reach our peak performance.
So I made this mistake before. You'll see we're all about transparency. So, I know in the field of psychology about somatic experiencing
and the idea of getting connected to the way that your body holds on to information, especially around trauma and things of that nature. What makes somatic intelligence different?
Great question. So somatics in general, everything is through the body and through experiencing anything somatic. Soma is the word means body, and somatic means through the body. So obviously you will hear anybody that's doing anything somatic, but it's through some kind of an experience and through the body. Somatic intelligence takes 5 elements that I've extracted out of us human beings, which is global, that when we start to use these elements, something shifts in bringing us back to our true nature. So these elements are elegance, intention, tempo, sabrosura, which you're going to ask me in a minute what that is, and mystery. So 5 elements. And I've extracted them by taking a time machine back. What does that mean? How do you take a time machine back? I've been on the line to Cuba for the last 14 years, a place that froze, in the 50s. And in that sense, it's like a human laboratory where I get to go and see the way we used to live and the benefits that it had, and then go back, take the time machine back to where we are and see how we live and what we did well as a human race and what we've messed up. And when I started investigating the benefits of their body language and what they conserved through the lifestyle that they still retain with no material and not running fast and no social media and all these things, I found these 5 elements that create magic in their lives. And when you go to Cuba, one, you feel love on the streets between people, and you go like, whoa, that feels good. And second is that they have this spark, this happiness in them. And you go like, they have nothing. How come they're happier than the way we live in the Western world and we have everything? So I started investigating what these things are. And then I extracted them out. And then I started testing it around the world to see if it works everywhere. And it does.
Okay. Well, you know the follow-up to this, right? You gave us the
No, but I'm happy to hear it.
You gave us the 5 names of the different elements. Can we talk a little bit about each one of them?
Yes, of course. So elegance is the possession of ourselves. It's the quietness of being ourselves. It's where people work a lot on mindfulness and meditation, but also it's about how we carry ourselves. I don't know if you've seen Amy Cuddy's TED Talk about how the body language can change, like a power pose can change the chemistry in our body in 2 minutes, which changes our behavior and changes the results.
I haven't seen that TED Talk, but obviously I've read a lot of the psychological literature on power posturing and the difference between in relationships around that.
Right. So basically, elegance, the way we hold our body with elegance, is a power pose. And if you'll take somebody, and I do this a lot in the studio when I work with clients, coaching clients, and I put them into elegance, if I'll ask them what their confidence level will be, they'll give it me one number. I'll work with them on elegance. And then by the end of it, I'll ask them again, and their whole confidence will shift. And it's also a matter of protection. So the way we hold the body, we create like a shield, which makes us feel protected, versus when we're drained with a lot of stress, people drop down from the chest. They actually lose that protection of the elegance. So the body language that we used to have gave us the benefits we now crave.
Okay.
So this is elegance.
Is this a little related to the idea of kind of your physiological state, just focus specifically in the moment on posture and the way you carry yourself?
It's a lot more than that, because let's move on to intention.
Yeah.
So the second element is intention. And intention is something that comes from in to out. So there's the holding of the body where you're intentional towards something and you lean into it, which gives you power, gives you focus, it gives you that, achieving and goals. But at the same time, it has to be from something that comes from in to out. I can put my body into that position and it's not going to give me the power that I need, because it's driven from a desire from in that goes to out. So everything is really expressed from in to out, which means alignment between our inner world and our outer world, 100% in, 100% out, which a lot of times these days there's a disconnect.
For sure. Yeah, we talk about this theme all the time.
Yeah. What you mentioned around elegant, the way you work with clients, what ends up coming up oftentimes around this piece, the intentionality?
Either people are very intentional and they're very strong and they can achieve, and they're in singular focus, which you see a lot with high achievers. They block everything out, compromise family, having fun, like things to achieve. And then there's the burnout. And sometimes even aggression, because force becomes too aggressive when you don't have the 5 elements balanced. So we talked right now about the 2 elements that give us power, the being and the doing. But we haven't talked about the other elements which balance that. The other thing that you see is sometimes people who don't know how to really be intentional and persevere. So a lot of people want something and then they try and then they don't succeed right away, so they give up. But to be intentional is to be able to hold that over time, over a long time. Can you hold it for 10 years, 15 years till you achieve that?
Yeah. We talk a lot about balance in our own relationship, because I do come from
achievement.
I mean, obviously, I come from Israel, but
that in itself says it all.
I know. Well,
oh, it doesn't. There's more puzzle pieces for this one. A doctor, father.
Yeah, my dad was a physician, and I mean, you'll know what this means. But in Israel, he was in the Atuda, and so sort of, really high performing his whole life. He was an athlete and a star, medical student in the military. Did really, really well his whole life, and he was Scandinavian too, so it was very action and achievement focused. And I grew up in that environment, and so for most of my life, what you did was how you judged who you are. Period. There's nothing else really mattered. We didn't talk about feelings. Feelings were not acknowledged as even existing. And when Sophie and I met and started building a life together, there was a lot of resistance because there wasn't a lot of space for other people to get involved in that. As long as it served the purpose, the path that I was on, that it was fine. But outside of that, it was really, really difficult to let something else integrate. And that's something that we've worked on a lot for the last decade, is how do you allow, for somebody who's that intentional, as you pointed out, how do you allow space?
I love the fact that you said space. We'll get back to that in a second.
Perfect. For other things to fit in. And for me, in the work that I do with people, that really had to center about changing my perspective about what matters. Because once I could adjust what the measure of success is, or what the doing meant, then I could allow space. I could still be doing, but I could allow space for others to count as my measure of success. It didn't have to be accolades or money or any of those specifics, but that took a lot of work for somebody who is so single direction.
I can teach this in a week. Seriously. I just came back from a retreat that I led in Marrakesh, Morocco. I just got back like 4 days ago. And it's called The Power of Enjoyment. And what I do with them there is I take all these high achievers and all these people who are super interested in the singular focus in their lives, right? And in 1 week, in one day, they felt like they were there a week because of the richness. What I do is I start with meditation to sounds that get them to the core of harmony again with special frequencies. Then I basically use attunement. Attunement is a type of somatic work where you really tune into what you feel and sense in the body. And then you have to start communicating from that place without disconnecting and running to the head and detaching. And that creates a relational space between people that we don't normally experience day to day, which gives you this rich meaning and feeling of love and acceptance and being who you are without being judged. And you suddenly bring yourself fully. From there, we went into breathing with body movements so that you reintegrate the breathing into what you're doing, because we detach from breathing from the stress. Then into case studies of gratefulness, which got them to work on cases of people that had really tough situations in life. Someone who has an ALS and will die in a year, someone who lost her legs. And then they have to create this incredible, inspirational ending to the story. And once they present this, you show them what they really did with their lives. And these people are sensational. And then I finished it the first day with tumbao. Tumbao is a rhythm in the body that goes comes from the third element from the 5 elements, which is tempo, which is enjoyment. And it releases endorphins in the body, creating a natural high. And I taught them how to put this little spring into their walking so they can do it every day when they're walking. By the end of the first day, we went out to see this crazy, beautiful Arab show in this like magical place that feels like an oasis. And they just went, I said, do you guys get that we've been here one day? And they were like, whoa, I feel like we've been here for a week. And the reason for that is because when we are in singular focus, all the colors shut down. We lose the richness. And what we're missing is what is called inner spaciousness, which is why I say to you, we'll come back to space. Yeah. So what you've learned over time is how to create space. I create inner spaciousness for them with bringing back all the colors so that when they feel that, they go like, oh my God, I do not want to give that up. Now, there is room for singular focus. We want to achieve in life, but it has to breathe. So there are times where we might need to zoom out everything and focus, where we have to be able to create that spaciousness again after we achieve a goal and not to keep living like that, just sacrificing, not leaving any kind of space. This is one of the critical reasons we see 50% divorce rate around the world.
Well, that's a good point for us. Because
love cannot live without investment, emotional investment. And for that, you need space.
That's a big point for us. I mean, we do this work. Our ignited relationship focus is literally on that number, right? The approximately 50% of marriages end in divorce number. And one of the ways we do a lot of that work is through transparency is one of the tools that we found a lot. But I'd love to talk more about either that spaciousness, the internal spaciousness that you'd mentioned, or you mentioned the third element already, which is tempo. And
let me give you the other 2. Then you decide which element you want. I only give you 3.
Okay, let's do it.
So element, sorry, I just got a bit of a cold. So element number 4 is the sabrosura. And the sabrosura is the sensuality that's inside of us that sits on physical love that's just magical. And in order to tap into the sabrosura, we have to tap into self-love and softness and sensuality, but it's really linked to self-worth and self-love and really releasing all the blocks in the heart, everything that blocks us, where we become true love, just pure love. And there's a lot of things that conflict with that nowadays because of the way we see ourselves, the image that we have of ourselves, because of the media, the way it portrays us. The 5th element is the mystery, and that's where the seduction happens. That's where the magic is of the seduction. So these are the 5 elements. You've got 2 elements that are about being and doing, and then you have other elements which are about enjoyment and love and softness and sensuality and playfulness and seduction.
Love it.
Yeah, those are definitely the colors. You know, when you were talking about attunement, it brought me back to work. I've definitely seen you do, Sophie, with people as well, and I do. When somebody talks about feeling an emotion, but they're talking about it, so they're saying, "Well, I get really angry or anxious when you do this or that," and to bring them back to a space where they go, "When you're saying that, what does that mean? What does it actually feel like? Where are you feeling it? Are you feeling it in your stomach? Are you feeling it in your chest?" I'm sure that your work maybe dives even deeper into the attunement, but people definitely have become so accustomed to talking about their feelings and not actually feeling their feelings.
You got it. You got it. It's exactly it. The work of attunement is about creating relational space where we can feel together. And what happens is our mind works in a different speed than our body and sensations, the feelings and the sensations. So when we're talking and thinking, we're running so fast that we're actually detaching from what we're feeling. So I'm doing a lot of work these days with bringing clients just to that relational space and keeping them where they feel. And you're absolutely right. You see this a lot when they go like, I think that what I feel is, but you're thinking, you're not feeling. When you're talking about what you're feeling, you're going like, I feel sadness. I feel pain. I'm sad right now and I don't know what to do with it. You know, it's like,
yeah,
because we don't provide space in this fast-paced society for sitting in your stuff, feeling your feelings. We just move on. Like, let's just be happy. Let's be quiet. Let's push it aside. We are success driven. there's not a lot of space. Like, we're trying to change that and provide space for healing and growth and really feeling your feelings and it being okay to struggle and sit in the pain and sit in the sadness. Like, that's really, we really do that a lot and try and practice that. But our society as a whole doesn't really allow for that.
Right. And we are the ones that have to make the changes. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And we are the ones that have to put the limits and the boundaries. And that retreat that I told you about, they have to give up their phone first thing in the morning and they receive it at the end of the day. And as a result, there's time for contemplation and for feeling and for processing. And you're absolutely right. We don't have time. When you sit with a feeling that's uncomfortable for you, let's say you're angry, you're sad, you're even depressed, you sit with it, not thinking about it, feeling it, it will shift because it's energy, it's movement.
And different ways and figuring out different tools and ways to move through that. That is what I work with my clients a lot, is like, how can you move through this energy? Like, how, Adi knows what to do and has the tools for once someone doesn't deal with them and they keep pushing away uncomfortable feelings, then it becomes an addiction. He's the one that, like, I push them to him then because he really knows how to communicate because of his past history and all the work he's done over the last decade with addicts and people in recovery. He really knows that language. I don't as much, but I know what to do right before that. I know how to get people into their bodies and shake it out and, somatic experiences. And that's where I kind of work with my clients, is like, let's just shake all that stuff out and start to feel a little bit. Like, how can you change your behaviors just enough to give yourself space to reflect and to feel, because you actually have the answers.
Here's a little trick of what anybody can do that would help them be there, is that we go immediately into tagging emotions as positive or negative. And as soon as we tag them as positive or negative, we want to accept and indulge in the positive, and we want to discard the negative. There are no positive and negative feelings. They're just feelings. So when you're able, and as soon as we do that, then there's an internal action that goes on where we want to either shove it down or shut it down or go into it or do something to it, but we want to move it. But if we can just be with it without taking it as positive or negative and without having to change anything about it, just to feel it, really feel into it, then it will shift.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Sophie mentioned, and as you talked about, that's not the general message we get, right? The message we get is, I know it was in my family, don't feel the negative. Don't let it go, get over it, walk it off, whatever the thing is. I find that for the people I work with, when we dive deeply into it, I actually literally just texted this to a client this morning, when she was going through a lot of suffering, and in one message, she texted me what she was thinking. And then the next message right away, she said, but it doesn't matter. I just have to get over this. And I said, no, the goal is not to just get over it. The goal is to understand it. What is happening? Where are you feeling it? What are the thoughts that are going through your head, so that you can, I call it curiosity. I call this phase of the work I do honest exploration. Honest, because we're not lying to ourselves and other people, and we're being truthful about what we're going through, but exploration, curiosity. Because I feel like oftentimes in our current society, we try to have the answers before we ask questions. So you said, we label it as good or bad. When I work with people in meditation, I tell them, you want to label your thoughts. I don't talk about as good as bad, but you want to give them a name. It's like, oh, I'm worried about what people might think about me later when I have to give this talk, or I'm concerned about how I look, or whatever. Accept it and understand it, because that's the path.
It's a little bit like family therapy system, working with your unconscious parts.
Definitely.
So there are different ways to approach this. There are people that go more through the cognitive, and there are people that come more through the somatics. Different methods work on this the same, different ways and get results. So there's not one way to get there. I know that as someone who's gone through a lot of therapy, because of my background and where I came from, where I suffered 10 years of suicidal thoughts because my mom got mentally sick, and I was in a really tough place. I've gone through a lot of different systems and methods. And I can say, for example, the family therapy system that works with your unconscious is incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
I personally love working with the somatic, because in the somatic, you don't even need to look for the why. You need to experience it and go deeper into it. And what is really incredible in that relational space of coaching or transformation, it's called transformational coaching, is that when you get witnessed by someone who can hold space for you, relational space in that moment, the body automatically releases, because the hurt and the trauma got stuck in the body because you felt alone in that moment. Like no one saw you. It's like a feeling of abandonment in a situation where you were left alone. And that's what causes us to shut down, because the nervous system as kids, we cannot contain those things. It's too big for us. So then when you can go in with somebody who's able to hold space and feel you and be there with you and witness what you're feeling and allow it to come out in a safe space where you cannot do it for yourself, there's a component of the body automatically releasing. It's called witnessing, which is really powerful and really incredible. And witnessing happens also sometimes when you're doing cognitive therapy with people and you're talking, and there's this attunement where you're with the person, they just feel like, oh my God, I can't believe I just said that. And the body suddenly releases. It happens in different places, not just in the somatic transformational coaching.
You know, my favorite way of doing that is actually in group work, because people aren't trying to consciously process their own feelings, but they absorb through mirror neurons and other elements of our own brain chemistry. You're able to reflect internally what somebody else is going through. And if you see somebody going through an emotional experience that is similar to something you're struggling with, but haven't been able to solidify, you haven't been able to talk about cognitively and rationally, you can have this implicit experience, this visceral experience. We all know it, right? I mean, a good movie, if you watch a really good movie or a really good TV show, that's what they're playing on, right? They're building up emotions. And by seeing the emotions happening outside of yourself, you get to experience the same. That's how we end up crying about a TV show. The TV show is not affecting you personally, but if it's done well, you can do the same thing in a therapeutic context. And I'm sure that happens in your workshops all the time, because people see others having the experiences, and then they can, even if they're not directly in a coupleship, they're not directly interacting, they literally absorb the energy of that experience in themselves. And I'm sure that provides them with release.
Yeah, I mean, I use that dynamic a lot, because there are certain dynamics that are one-on-one. There are certain dynamics that are group dynamics. There's a power to the group as well. When you see other people daring, and if they dare, it gives you more power to dare as well, because especially if you see something great happening, and then you don't want to be left behind. So it's actually, there's a retreat that I lead in Havana, Cuba, which is just for women, for reclaiming their femininity. It's called the Power of the Sabrosura. And I take them to Cuba because the environment lives like this. So even just the environment itself, being in Cuba, seeing women suddenly behave in this way, allows them, gives them freedom to behave in ways that they wouldn't necessarily behave in their own culture. But then they see other women in the program dare go beyond their used to behaving. And that gives them even more freedom to do it. But then you're also absolutely right that there's sharing, that you see yourself in the other person, and that provides you for a breakthrough just by seeing someone else go through something that you feel internally.
That's awesome. I hear you talking about retreats. I'm sure people listening right now, will jump to listen to your TED Talk, and you talked to me a little before, and I do want to get on this a little bit, how that came about for you, because I think that's an interesting story by itself. And so let's get to that in a minute. In the meantime, you do these retreats. What are some other ways that people can learn from you and really interact with these principles and be taught how to walk through this?
So when people go on the website, powersomaticintelligence.com, there's the retreats which they can join in either Havana, Cuba, or in Marrakesh in Morocco. And people can apply. We don't accept people automatically. We really curate the groups that come in, so that creates that quality of connection. We also, there's also people can do somatic intelligence assessment with me. That's an incredible process where I sit one-on-one with the person, long distance via Zoom, and I answer with them a lot of questions, and then I create a report, a somatic intelligence report, identifying the cognitive and the somatic, and mapping their history from the past to the future, where they are today, and kind of creating a blueprint, an emotional blueprint of where they are, where their emotional blocks are, the blind spots that they have in their lives. And from there, kind of creating a roadmap for them of how they can optimize their performance through these elements, which is also really interesting because we talk about parents, and a lot of times you see the impact of what the parents had as limitations in the relationship between them and with the child, that the person is going through it, and then how their elements are showing up today in their performance. So somatic intelligence assessment is really, really powerful. Then there's somatic intelligence coaching continuum from that, working on a regular basis to learn how to then apply this roadmap and really shift the performance. There's also a smaller thing to start with when people just want to get a first taste. There's already an online program for women for the power of the sabrosura, reclaiming their femininity, which people can take. It's videos that are pre-recorded, and they can do the classes. In the future, there will be other programs. There are going to be 5 programs in total, retreats in the world, and there are going to be 5 programs online with time. And that's more or less it. So like coaching with me, and then the retreats, workshops, and doing somatic intelligence assessment and online classes. That's pretty much the direction to go.
Exciting.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. You mentioned something about a lot of loss and struggle early on that got you to this work yourself. And I think for me, there's not something stronger and more powerful than understanding the path, the journey that somebody has gone through to discover these truths, right? It's part of what I tell my people all the time is, look, for Chen, if you hadn't gone through the struggles that you had gone through, then you wouldn't have discovered this. That's the beauty of challenges. We go through challenges, and if we face them head on and I'll say solve the puzzle, but it's not really solve. It's more like even understand the puzzle. We get discoveries, we get understandings, we get knowledge that we wouldn't have had we just tried to turn around and run away from it. Do you mind talking a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, first of all, I don't think that, like for me, I think that it is our job to take the circumstances that we were given and turn it into the gift that it can be. And it's got to be, in my opinion, spectacular. Like if you look at my life journey and where I started and where I'm today, and I'm going to explain in a minute what that means, and where I'm today, up to a couple of years ago, I still said, I wish it never happened. If you asked me today, I wouldn't change a thing. And it took some work to get there. And, you know, in a nutshell, my mom got mentally sick when I was 11 years old, and I crashed. You know, the very person who was my role model, I lost her emotionally to the illness. And she was an incredible woman, but she was very sick. She was manic depressive, and her illness was very severe. So growing up around a person who didn't have healthy boundaries, that I couldn't trust because she was detached sometimes from reality. She would tell me things that never happened. It's like, you know, broke trust, and I didn't know what to trust. And so many different things broke in all reality. Now I know that everything broke in my base that your parents are supposed to give you naturally. And my dad was working 3 jobs at the same time to support us. So it wasn't really available emotionally. So in that sense, I was abandoned completely because there was nobody there to be with me, not because my dad abandoned me, but because how much can you carry as one person with 2 kids and an ex-wife who got mentally sick and 3 jobs, and like, there's only so much that you can do. So I really spiraled out of control. I suffered so much rejection on all angles, including being made fun of in school. And at one point, my nervous system could not take it anymore, and I shut down. And I started pretending on the outside like everything was okay. And I had horrible suicidal thoughts, and no one knew about it for years. And and it was this spiral down till at the age of 20, I hit rock bottom, and it was really live or die. Like I couldn't go on anymore. And I sat down, and we talked about feeling. I sat down and I asked myself what I wanted to do, if I wanted to live or die. And I just waited for an answer. It wasn't something I was thinking about. I just waited. And the answer came, and thank God it was that I haven't yet done this and this and this and this. And so I went out there to fight for myself. And I promised myself that I wouldn't stop till I would find the answers. And I searched high and low all over the world. And I was fragmented into so many parts that collecting these parts back took forever. It took 2 decades. And eventually I figured it out, and I managed to put it together. But along the way, I've learned so many amazing things. And it almost felt like it's my responsibility to pass this knowledge on, because a lot of people learn and study about these things, but they don't know what it feels like to be there. I've been there. No one can sell me stories. I know what it's like to come out of there, and I know how to be in that despair and what it felt like and what it took to get out of there. And I figured so many things, but I didn't stop at okay when I got to okay. I was like, no. You don't go through a life like this that was this hard and you suffer so much. And then you go like, I'll have a mediocre life. Great. I'm just okay now. I was like, freaking hell, I'm going for spectacular. I'm not stopping here. So I kept going. And this is what allowed me to eventually find this human treasure called the power of somatic intelligence. The somatic intelligence element that I found were because when I was okay cognitively, my body still held the trauma. And I didn't understand why I couldn't release the pain from the body and heal the body, and why I was still okay. So I started investigating into how to heal my body, and I eventually ran into the sabrosura, which healed the trauma that was there, because to be able to move like that with that kind of softness, I had to really learn how to love myself to the levels that people don't know. And it's like it's only through really truly feeling that kind of love and releasing everything that is blocked and being able to fully embrace yourself with all that you are, that you can reach that state.
I love it.
It's beautiful.
I love it. So similar, Soph, to the way you approach healing. What we've gone through in terms of now not saying, I wish it never happened.
No, we went through a lot of like traumatic, we had some cheating in the beginning of our relationship, and then just like deceit and lies and betrayal. And I didn't know, what was truth anymore. And I'm now so grateful. Like my story, my real story now is I'm so grateful for all of that, because it's made us who we are today. And we have the most strong, beautiful, dynamic relationship. And that's because of all of those things. And it comes back to what you said in the beginning about there's no positive and negative emotions. There's also no positive and negative experiences. They're just experiences. And if you can take those experiences as lessons and see them as such, what do I need to receive from this lesson? If you don't receive it, you're going to keep getting it. You're just going to it's going to keep showing up. So if you can see that, and it takes time to recognize it as, oh shit, this is really similar to that thing 6 months ago. I still haven't learned it. Let's see what the lesson is here. Okay, I need a boundary, a hard boundary. And this is what it needs to be. And this is what it needs to feel like. And then you won't keep being presented with this challenge and this experience, right? And it happens in all areas of our life. And there's no good and bad. They're just experiences.
I really think that when we get to the point where we can accept everything that comes our way, no matter if it's difficult for us to digest it or not, and we can start understanding that really everything is a gift, it's when something changes and flips in you. So like I had a really bad accident 2 years ago with my right arm. I almost lost it. And everybody said it. And the doctor said to me, full stop, 2 months. I don't know if we can save your arm. And I went out of there and I started crying. I was like, oh my God, this is my body. It's my work. I do somatic intelligence. I need my body. And I collected myself within 15 minutes. And I said, okay, look, there are two ways this could go. You're going to be depressed at home. You're going to say, why is it happening to me? The world is not fair, and go into that direction. And then waste all the energy just, feeling sorry for myself. Or I could basically say, no, this is an opportunity for growth. I'm going to do the best that I can and put all the energy in my body towards healing. And if I cannot by the end of it, then I will adjust to a new status quo. And that new status quo means disability, and that's my new status quo. There's nothing to be depressed about, but I will give it all I can. Will give my body the best chance to recover first before I will accept that. And I declared 2 months personal development, period. And as a result, the power of somatic intelligence came out 3 years before.
That's beautiful.
Amazing.
And I love, the reality. If that had happened, you would have adjusted and found a way to have the best version of that reality.
It's a new lens.
Because of the perspective,
Yeah,
right?
it's a new lens.
Exactly. That's what I mean when I said giving them the case studies of these really difficult situations and then letting them recreate the story. So like they're getting a story of somebody who's got ALS and is going to die in a year. Show me what he's going to do with this incredible year to make it like so worth his time. And then seeing what the person really did.
Yeah.
That like you're competing with people that did fantastic, incredible things. How do we train our mind to turn anything that come our way into incredible inspiration? Look at, I don't know if you know Amy Purdy, who lost both her legs in and is now a Paralympic a snowboarder. And
Wow.
she toured around with Oprah. In front of tens of thousands of people. She was in Dancing with the Stars. It's like, and then you can think of somebody who lost their two legs and sitting at home and barely doing anything with their lives.
Totally.
100%.
I think for the inspiration piece, this leads us perfectly into the 5 questions that we ask everybody. You ready?
I'm ready.
What is the best advice that you've ever received?
I think it's hard to say best ever because there are different good ones, but I'll give you one. A good friend of mine said to me, make sure that when you create your business, make it one that you love doing it so much that even if you didn't get paid, you'd still do it.
Love it. So Sophie and I know that world well.
Yeah.
I live in that universe. That's awesome. What is your proudest moment to date?
Saving myself from the suicidal thoughts and from the rock bottom that I was in. I've done many different things and people think that I should be so proud of them. And it's not that I'm not proud of my TED Talk with 9 million views or, best-selling book or even creating the power of somatic intelligence. But I think my biggest moment was really finding a way to save me and not falling like other people that have fallen in the same situation into drugs or alcohol or prostitution or whatever it is that people run to escape the pain.
That's beautiful. I love it.
What about your hardest moment?
My mom getting mentally sick was the hardest by far up to date. And I've had other hard moments in my life, but I mean, losing her to her mental illness when I was like mommy's little girl and she was my comfort and losing that, not having a mom to run to over the years and tell these things and hearing the stories of my friends saying, oh, my mom this, my mom that, and you got somebody to share with, and there is no mom. I think one, losing her and then all the impact that came afterwards of living with this new person called my mom that wasn't behaving like my mom the way I knew her. So it was the biggest loss ever.
Yeah, we have a few friends who that's happened to, and it always leaves an incredible mark.
And I think in all honesty, the hardest thing in that is that for many years you wish that you could bring back the old person, and you're not living in reality, you're living in a dream.
Yeah,
and that's the pain, the biggest pain, because you're not accepting the reality.
Right. Yeah. Knowing the work that you do and the experiences you've had, the tough and the good experiences, we find that a lot of the people that we work with have their own way of making sure that they take care of themselves, their own self-care rituals. What do you do in your daily life to make sure that you take care of yourself the best you can so you can show up to this work?
A couple of things. One, I normally really pay attention to what my body says. The fact that I'm sick right now, I don't get sick a lot, is because we had to go over my capacity in the retreat, and the situation that got created, I couldn't stop that. I had to contain it.
Yep.
But normally I don't go there. I really hold really healthy boundaries, and I make sure that if my body says stop, I stop.
Yeah.
I also make sure to start the morning with meditation and get present to what I feel and get connected to my body and the sensations without thinking. And the third thing I would say is leaving room for contemplation rather than constantly being on social media nonstop. Like allowing myself to be with what I feel, especially when it's uncomfortable, and not running away and just being there. These things are some of my healthiest habits to date.
That's awesome.
Beautiful.
That's beautiful.
And then our podcast is called Ignited. What ignites you?
I would say two things. So you said ignite, so I got to ignite. So one, I really live to make a difference in people's lives. Like that just gets my juices going. And that includes, understanding the processes and the cognitive and the somatic and how we're constructed. And like, I'm doing a course right now about attunement with this incredible and transformational leader. And I'm just like, I'm drooling over this. And then I'm applying it right away to my coaching clients, and I'm adding things to the retreats. I'm constantly evolving. It's just so exciting. And seeing people's lives transform every day when I can impact them and I see how I get them the result that they want is just like, I feel like it's such a gift.
Mm.
Like to wake up with such a purpose and live on purpose is such a gift. And the second thing I would say, it's not for nothing that I did a TED Talk about seduction. And I, through the work that I've been doing in Cuba, the body work that I've been doing in Cuba, I've had the incredible opportunity to live connected to my attraction power. And attraction power ignites you and keeps you super young. And there's a playfulness in you that keeps you happy and playful and in your power, where you can feel that you can achieve things because you feel what you're capable of, because you're attracting. And it doesn't even have to be a sexual attraction, just feeling that power inside you.
Energetically.
It impacts your performance and what you're capable of doing. And I tap a lot into it. So between making a difference in all of this cognitive and somatic and the depth of it and the presencing and the relational space and all that inner spaciousness, and then throw in there a little bit of seduction too, and I'm good. And I've got the 5 elements constantly.
You're ignited.
I'm so ignited, like you just got me going.
Oh, that's awesome. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing the elements with us. I can't wait to share the resources for people on how to work with you. We're going to be in Israel this summer, so we have to connect in person.
Yes, I'd love to meet you in person. Let's do it.
Yeah, that would be awesome. First of all, I mean, an incredible story, an incredible journey. Congratulations on all the success, and thanks for sharing this incredible knowledge with us and our people.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. See you soon.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Ignited podcast. We were so happy to have you along for this ride. Please go and subscribe to this. Leave us a review. We love hearing from you. And if you want more, don't forget to go to ignited.com, where all the podcast episodes are available with show notes and so many of the little details and links from each one of these interviews. And you can look at all the future events that we have going on, all the things that make Ignited so special, even beyond this recording. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next week.